Matt Hancock tonight warned the fight against coronavirus isn't over yet, but announced a third of Brits have now received a vaccine. Speaking at a Downing Street press conference, the health secretary said cases have risen in a fifth of local council areas over the and health chiefs pleaded with the public don't wreck this now by being tempted to break the rules on one of the warmest weekends of the year. Mr. Hancock said, the data show we are moving in the right direction. The number of cases is now down to 1 in every 145 people and the rate of decline. The link from cases to hospitalizations and deaths, which has had a grim inevitability throughout 2020, is now breaking thanks to the vaccination. But he also warned, the number of cases is now falling by only 15% a week. In some areas of the country that has flattened entirely, and 1 in 5 local authority areas has seen a rise in cases in the last week. This stark picture shows that this isn't over yet. The stay-at-home rules are still in place for every action you take, every time you put your mask on, every time you stay at home, you are playing your part. This is on all of us to keep this under control. Deputy Chief Medical Officer Jonathan Van-Tam said cases rates in some parts of the country are going in the wrong direction. He said, this is not a good sign and reinforces the fact I'm afraid this battle at the moment is not. And he warned people there is a long way to go and they mustn't be tempted to break the rules. He said, this is all going very well, but there are some worry signs that people are relaxing, taking their foot off the brake at exactly. It's a bit like being 3-0 up in a game and thinking we can't possibly lose this now. But how many other times have you seen the other side take it 4-3? It is too early to relax. Continue to maintain discipline and hang on just a few more months. Do not wreck this now, we are so close. And he warned the country may not be able to unlock his plan if people don't stick to the lock. He said, I do worry that people think it's all over. The more they think that when it's not, the greater the headwind they're going to give to the vaccine program and the more at risk will become the milestones set on the roadmap. It's just a collective effort. It's actually up to us whether we can hold our nerve and see this through properly until the end of the roadmap or whether we're going to fall at the last furlough. Mr. Hancock announced that 19 million people have now had at least one jab, which is 35% of adults across the UK. And he praised the Sun's hugely successful Jabs Army campaign, saying there will be a big role for its volunteers. The health secretary said, the Jabs Army marches on and they're doing an amazing job in helping everybody to get the vaccines. We are looking at a system of NHS reserves, people who are committed to supporting the NHS through voluntary action who have the training and are on a specific reserves program. That's exactly the sort of thing the Jabs Army might be called upon to do in the future in a broader sense, because we've just seen the unbelievable support volunteers can give to the NHS when there's a big job to do. It comes after scientific advisors confirmed earlier that the next phase of Britain's COVID vaccine rollout will continue to be prioritized. Britain is currently on target to give all Brits over 50s at least one dose of the vaccine by April. People aged between 40 and 49 will be next in line for the jab, followed by the 30-39s age group and then all those 18 to 29. The Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization, JCVI, announced that there had been calls for professions such as police officers and teachers to be given the COVID vaccine jab order, but the JCVI said continuing to prioritize by age would provide the greatest benefit in the shortest time. And it said that prioritizing certain professions would have been more complex to deliver and could slow down the vaccine rollout. Professor Wei Shen Lim, COVID-19 chair for the JCVI, said, the current strategy is to prioritize those who are more likely to have severe outcomes and die from COVID-19. The evidence is clear that the risk of hospitalization and death increases with age. So far, more than 18.6 million Brits have received their first dose of either the Oxford/AstraZeneca jab or the Pfizer/BioNTech vaccine, and 700,718 people in the UK have had their second dose as well. On Monday, Boris Johnson pledged that all the UK's 54 million adults would be offered a jab by July 31st. At a press conference, the PM insisted the extraordinary success of the vaccines program would throw a shield around the entire population. Boris vowed, there is light ahead, leading us to a spring and a summer, which I think will be seasons of hope, looking and feeling incomparably better for us all and from which we will not. It comes as the Queen last night urged Brits to get their jabs and said, it did. The 94-year-old monarch, given her injection 7 weeks ago and wearing a brooch in tribute to ill husband Philip, told a video call that COVID was vaccine success. The number of Brits jabbed is 28% of the population, the third highest in the world behind Israel and the EU. Yesterday, the numbers who have had at least one dose rose by 448,962 after a slump for several days this week. Last week, the vaccine rollout moved on to the next phase, with over 65s and younger people with underlying health conditions in England being offered. The success of Britain's vaccine rollout helped drive the government's roadmap out of lockdown, with all restrictions set to end on June. Data has suggested that the vaccine rollout is moving at such could have their first dose by the David Salisbury, former director of immunization for the government, told the BBC Today that prioritising Brits in order of age was the fastest way to vaccinate. He told Radio 4's Today programme, "I'd hate to think vaccine gets wasted because there are not people to match the logical prioritization is to use age, which is so much more demonstrable than saying my job is this or my job is that. So whilst I do have a view that some occupations may justify some prioritization, logistically the straightforward way to do it is through an age-based approach. Before the new deadline of April 15, there are 9 priority groups that will need to be vaccinated, including clinically extremely vulnerable. A BMI of 40 or above and severe asthma now makes patients eligible for the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization, JCVI, had already said people with severe and profound learning disabilities are part of Group 6, all adults aged 16 to 64 with underlying health conditions. It meant adults with less severe learning disabilities are not currently priority. Meanwhile, vaccination passports are likely to be introduced by summer in a huge boost for Brits dreaming of a beach holiday abroad. The certificates will enable people to travel in Europe despite the coronavirus. NHS England said on February 21 that over 2/3 of people aged between 65 and 69 have now had their invitations are now being sent to those aged 64 years old. At least 10 areas of England are speeding ahead to vaccinate all over 50s by March 7, figures suggest.